Well, hello out there. Welcome back to another episode of Greg's Motors and More. Today, I'm going to work on this Baja Warrior 200 mini bike. This bike belongs to a customer of mine. He's having some trouble with it. Says the only way he can get it to run is with the choke on. So that right there tells me it's got a carburetor problem. So we're going to dig into this thing and take you guys through it. As you can tell, it's got a Predator motor swapped onto it, or a Honda clone, whatever you want to call it. They're fairly simple engines. And this one's been modded, it's got a bigger carb on it. So let's start going through it and we'll see what we got going on here. So we got an air filter here, we got a crankcase breather. We're gonna go ahead and first thing we're gonna do is try to get as much fuel out of this as possible so we're not swimming in it. And that fuel cap's not exactly great either. These have a strainer in them. Good idea to have a strainer like that. I did talk to him about, yeah, you can see on that strainer right there, there's little chunks of stuff in there, so that's caught something. But if you run ethanol fuel in these small engines and let them sit for any length of time, the ethanol breaks down into what I call ethanol BBs. It literally gels into little balls, and those go into the jets, and then they plug your carburetor up. So find non-ethanol fuel for your small engines. It's very important, and it'll make them last a lot longer. And also, when you get to the end of the season and you're done riding them, run them out of fuel or drain the fuel out of them completely. If you do that, it'll start for you next season when you go to put fuel in it. But yeah, today's fuel, it's only good for about a month, maybe two if you're lucky. It's just not good. If you let it sit long enough, it'll literally start to turn the inside of the carburetor bowl green. It literally starts to like mold or algae. Because, you know, the ethanol is corn based, and anything that's based off something living is going to mold eventually. So that's probably about as good as we're going to get out of the tank. Now we can start pulling the carburetor off of here. First thing is we got to get this big honking cone air filter out of here, which I think he'd been a little better off having a different air filter because he lives on a gravel driveway, so these things are going to plug up in no time. Yank that off. Oh my, look at that nice throttle body extension there. Got two 10 mil screws right here. Now, if you just got a regular old Predator carburetor, you'll just have two 10 mil screws right here. This extension won't be on here. This is aftermarket. And that one was loose. So that might be a piece of the problem. Time will tell here. Those are off. Trying to treat this thing with some kid gloves because this table's kind of wobbly and this thing weighs a lot. It was a lot for me to put it up here. Okay, so now we're down to our carburetor. Our gasket's in good shape. Let's see here. Here's our little tiny fuel line. I'm going to go ahead and get a drain pan up under here so we can catch the fuel. We're going to reach up under here, squeeze a little clamp. Actually, you know what? I should probably try to get you guys in here a little bit closer, so maybe you guys can actually see what's happening here. Alright, that's about as good as I'm going to be able to do. So here's your fuel line. So we're going to reach up behind here, and there's one of these dumb little spring clamps that I don't like. We're going to pull that up. And then take a little pick or a flat blade screwdriver. Start separating your fuel line from your carburetor inlet. Just kind of work it around. You don't want to get too rough with it because you'll split that hose. And the older your equipment is, the harder it's probably going to be to get off. Which this one's, I mean, it's still pliable, so that's a good thing. Another thing you can do is if you got these needle nose pliers, come in here like this, get to the bottom of the fuel line, and then just kind of go around the metal part and use that to push it off. Alright. There we go. Now hopefully the rest of that will drain out of the tank. It should drain out by gravity, but it's not. I might have to blow some compressed air in the tank to get that to come out of there. But we're not too worried about that at this point. If nothing else, I can put some fresh fuel in there or some carb cleaner, and we can get her out of here. So I'm just going to grab a hold of this carburetor here. I'm trying to start gently wiggling it, and it should start to move like that. The fuel line, just kind of tuck it out of there. There's a gap here for it. Now we don't want to stretch this governor spring all out. Let me get this gasket off here, set it over there. So what we're going to do is take our little pliers here, and we're just going to take it and pull that spring off. Now we can pull our carburetor out until we're able to turn this linkage and get it out. It's kind of tough. Just going to tell you that up front. Oh, okay. Come on out there, booger. There we go. Okay. Boy, the tank's not even really on there. Just sitting there, ain't it? Yeah, it is. It's got one 10mm screw hole that I'm going to go ahead and try and zip him out. Somebody did a rush job on this and didn't put it back together all the way. I'll have to let them know about that. That or the gravel road, she vibrated herself to pieces. You never know with these things. It says Rutu on the side of the tank, and I'm not real familiar with Rutu. Never heard of that. Heard of Bluetooth? I'm sure you guys have heard of Bluetooth too. But... uh-oh, okay, there we go. Yep. I mean, back in my day, the old timers had, there goes the fuel. That might be part of the problem. That fuel line might not be routed right. That's interesting. Yeah, we've still got fuel in there. Back in my day, the old timers had blue hair. You know, oh, my uncle used to sing a song, Blue Hair's Driving in My Lane, about an old lady. And then I'm sure some of you remember that other song, The Little Old Lady from Pasadena. That was a big one. I think that was Beach Boys or something like that. Anyway, enough of my yakking. So, now we should be able to remove the carburetor. Alright, carburetor is off. So now I need to set up on the bench so you guys will be able to see me tear this thing down. I know this video quality is not the greatest. I had to send my other phone in because I cracked the screen on it, so I'm just using an oldie at the moment to try and get her going. Alright, well that gasket there's tore. Sorry, I'm not showing you guys that. I'm looking over here on the intake of the bike. The intake gasket's torn. It looks like it was torn before I worked on it. Somebody's tried to silicone it back together. So that's going to be a problem. I'll have to look through my stash and see if I've got one. All right, so here's our carburetor. Sorry. Here's our carburetor. Here's the fuel shut off. There is a little bowl here underneath. And then you got your main carburetor bowl here with a 10 mil. And it's going to drip some fuel right now. So let's use something that makes sparks. Or not. Hang on. Where's my ratchet at? Alright, so let's pop this 10 mil screw out of the bottom of this. Oh, geez, I'm going to drop. I am not awake yet. Sorry, guys. Well, here we go. Let's pop this 10 mil screw out. And that was way too loose. Somebody's obviously been in this thing before, whether they're changing jets or what. Yeah, and the bowl's loose too. Let's hold that over the drain pan for a second. Oh, I'm gonna be reeking like fuel this morning. I'm gonna go to pick the kid back up from football practice. All right, well, the bowl looks pretty clean actually. Somebody's definitely been in here before. And all right, so now we're in here. There's a pin here that holds your float on. We're gonna pull that out just like that. What I'll do is I'll drop that down in that bowl. Then you can lift out your float and your needle valve. Let me see if I can show you guys this a little better. So there's your float with your needle valve attached. Do not lose your needle valve. Throw it over there too. I try to keep everything in the bowl, that way I know where it is. Uh-oh, we just had a linkage fall off. I took a lot of pictures of this carburetor before I tore it apart. I recommend that you do the same. So now I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Let me get a light so you guys can kind of see something here. There we go. Down in there's a jet. This is your main jet. So, I'm trying to figure out a way I can get you guys some light on this subject. There we go. Alrighty. So we're going to take our flat blade, and that one's too big. Let's try this small one. Sometimes these jets are in here pretty hard. They can be kind of tough to get out. And again, this one's pretty loose, coming right out. I think somebody was definitely in this carburetor a time or two trying to fix this before I got it. And that makes me a little bit concerned. All right, there we go. Comes out in two parts. Now, this jet system here is the same on most of your newer lawnmowers with the little Chinese engine on it. So this right here is your main jet. And this right here is, what do you call this? Vaporizer tube, orifice tube. Excuse me. So it has all these little tiny orifices all the way around it. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'm hoping you can. But it has all these little orifices all the way around it. And those are what gets plugged and makes things run crappy. And this one, some of them are plugged. So if you don't have one, go find yourself a little piece of wire, or you can get one of these torch tip cleaners, probably from your local hardware store or tool store. Harbor Freight may even have them. Start with your smallest wire, and we're going to take our main jet here, and we're going to pass that wire through the main jet. Make sure that it's open, and it is. So now we're going to take it, we're going to go through every hole on this thing. All right, just to make sure they're all open so we can pass all the way through it. So that's a good thing. And then we got a bunch of little teeny tiny holes on this thing, boy. And I'm not even on the smallest wire, am I? No, here it is. Okay, sorry guys. I am not a hand model, nor am I super coordinated. So we're going to go through every single little passage on this thing and get them all open. If you miss one, then it's not going to run right. It might run, but it won't run right, and you won't have all the fuel you're supposed to get. These guys here are just absolutely so tiny. Yeah, I can't even get a wire through those. They're just so darn tiny. Alright. Well, we'll have to blow through those with carb cleaner. Let me get some of that. Alright, so go down to your local store, get yourself some carb cleaner, and get your little red straw. You're going to need the red straw. Don't buy a can without it. Alright, so what I do is I'll hold my finger over that end like that, put my straw on the other end, and you should see it blow out all those little forts. Nice stream. That's clean. Okay? And then when you set it down, make sure it's in a clean spot. It's not in a bunch of dirt. Blow through your main jet. Get a nice stream. It's clean. Take your float out. Give it a little dousing. Needle valve. And you want to look, hang on. Let me get that needle valve out of there and take a close look at it. So, if you're having a problem with fuel coming out of your carburetor and this thing flooding out and putting black smoke out, this guy right here is probably your culprit. This is your needle valve. The float comes in, pushes this up into the seat on your carburetor and shuts the fuel off when the bowl level gets to the right height. Also, if your float level is off, then it's either going to starve for fuel or it's going to flood. So you want to make sure that this little rubber tip here is still kind of pliable, and this one is. And then you want to look real close at it and make sure it's not deformed in any way, and this one is not. So we're going to spray him down a little bit. Just make sure he's nice and clean. Set him in a nice clean spot. I kind of set mine on top of the float like that. We're going to spray the bowl out. Make sure we're getting any trash we can out, so there's nothing to go in those jets, which this bowl is, I'm just being honest, it's pretty darn spotless. So there's that. Now we're going to take the carburetor part and start blowing down through all these holes in here. Okay, we're going to blow down through our main jet hole here. We're going to blow down through our fuel inlet. Make sure it's nice and open. And then some of these, oh shoot, I got that on the camera, didn't I? All right, let me clean that off. Sorry guys. Well, actually, you're cleaner than you were before, so we'll leave you. All right. So anyway, any passage that you can find on this carburetor, you need to blow some carb cleaner through it and make sure it's going to come out the other end. You also need to get in here in all these nooks and crannies, blow out any crap that's going to come in there. All right. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this off. All right. You want to be very careful with this. Just be gentle. You don't got to He-Man it. All right, well, that's nice and clean as well, but we're still going to clean it. There's a hole there. We'll go ahead and blow through that. We can get our straw in there. My hands are not working quite right. There we go. There's a hole there. Blow through that one. Oh, yep, there's some crap coming out of there. Get all that crap out of there. All right. Now, when you're done with this point, what I like to do is I like to blow all this out with compressed air, get all the carb cleaner out, and make sure it's nice and clean. Let me see here. Also got air bleeds. Okay, make sure they're open. Every single port and passage on this carburetor needs to be able to move air or fuel as it was intended. Otherwise, it's not going to run right. It's not going to start right. And then what I'll do after that is come out here on the body and just give it a nice, spray down. That way the guy at least knows I was in here, not cheating him. But by the way, this thing ought to run when I'm done. You ought to know that anyway. So, there's that. All right. Now, we're going to reassemble. Actually, let me go ahead and blow this thing out with some compressed air real quick, and then we'll come back and reassemble. Alright, so I wanted to show you guys just a little tip here. Trying to clean this gasket off that's broke. So here's a little tip for you guys. You don't want all that trash going in your engine, because right inside of here is your intake valve. Any little piece of dirt or crap that goes in here can get lodged between the intake valve and the seat, and that can cause problems, and you don't want anything going in your engine besides fuel and air. So what I've done is taken just a little piece of paper towel, wadded it up, stuffed it down in there far enough that when I use this, because it's kind of hard getting around here to get all this gasket out. So we're going to take our governor assembly, slide it to the side, and then I have a wire brush that I use on my drill. We're going to chuck that up. And then we're gonna ever so gently get up in here, start taking that gasket off, just like so. I'm probably right in your way though. You don't want to take too much, you don't want to like mess the metal surface up or anything. You just kind of want to get in here and get it clean. Get all the crap off of it. And then if you still have more left after that, take a razor blade and get in there and clean it up real nice. So just wanted to show you guys that little tip there, little trick. Alright, so I'm having a little bit of trouble getting down in here around these studs. So I don't typically like to do this, but I've already loosened them. Get yourself a pair of vice grips. I use these needle nose guys here. Hi, how you doing?
Hi! It's Godzilla! It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is Godzilla! No, it isn't.
And you should just be able to spin them out. If they don't want to come out real easy, then I wouldn't force them, because you'll mess them up or break them off, which is worse. So, but anyway, if you can get the studs out, then you'll be able to get up there real nice and deep like on that gasket surface.
That's it, boy. Get in there nice deep.
Get it perfectly clean, which it kind of needs to be. This is the sealing surface between your head and your carburetor. It's pretty darn important that that's clean and that gasket sits flat, because it can suck air, and sucking air sucks.
As you can see, it sucks, as it does. It certainly does suck.
So, because anytime you got an air leak like that, it makes it run lean. You can cook your engine. It's not cool. So there you go. Now we got a nice flat surface, and we can easily get in there and clean that guy up. Oh yeah. Man, somebody really did a number on this gasket. Somebody put some goop on there that ain't wanting to come off. There we go. Now we got a nice clean gasket surface. So before you go putting them studs in, take your carburetor cleaner or some compressed air and blow these holes out to get any trash out of there that you may have just put in there. Alrighty. And then you can see all the trash and debris in there. Well, I hope you can see it, but anyway. So what we're gonna do there is we're just gonna pull that paper towel out and the debris should come with it. Where's my little needle nose plier things at? Should just be able to reach in there and grab hold of that and pull it out, and all the trash should come with it. Yep. All that would have went in your engine. Looking in there at the back of that valve, and looks pretty good. Probably going to blow that out with some compressed air too before we put it back together. Alright, so now we're back where we started from. We're going to start putting the carburetor back together. And then I looked through my stash of gaskets and I don't have one that's going to match exactly. I'm going to have to go get my gasket stock and make one. But I want to show you guys this real quick. Now if I can get my hand in front of the camera. See, one end's big, one end's narrow. The narrow end goes in your carburetor first. Okay, it's going to drop in there like that. And then, which side is it? When you open your throttle, you should be able to see it sticking out back in there. And you can. So that's down. Then, your main jet goes in on top of it. And it always goes in Phillips head side, or flathead side, sorry, out. Alright. And then thread it down till it stops. And then make sure you get it in there tight. There we go. So there's that. Alright. Now, float and needle valve. Be very careful doing this. I need to clean this float off again. I'm going to do that real fast. It's got dirt on it. I need to clean my table. Okay. Set that on that clean paper towel there so it doesn't get anything on it. Spray our needle valve off again. Can't stand when I got to redo stuff. Wish I had a better spot to work in, but oh well. It is what it is. Alright, now. There's this little notch here, right here, and this needle valve's got a little tiny piece of wire on it. You're going to take that, stick it up on there like so, and then you want to tilt your float back so that it stays just like that. Pick up your carburetor body assembly, turn it. Ooh, I just dropped something and I don't know what it was. I'll have to look in a minute. Right here is where this needle valve is going to go, into this thing. So we're going to slowly drop that in, line that up. That's going to go in, and then you're going to set that there for a second. All right, you're going to get your float pin, and then you're going to align the float. And then line it up. Oops, I missed. It's hard to do this when I'm trying to look through the camera and make sure you guys are seeing what I'm doing here. I guess I could just do it and then show you later, but it'd probably be beneficial for time. Oh, come on, booger. I think I'm going about it the wrong way. Just set it on the table, that'll make it easier. You do not want to go in there, do you? Yeah. There we go. That's in there. When your float raises, your needle valve should move. And it is. So that's a good thing. Alrighty. I know what I dropped. It was the cap off of that strainer when it comes into the carburetor. Okay. Got it. Spray that off again now that it's been in the dirt. All right, so now we can put this guy back on. There we go. Now, these threads on this are very, very fine. If it doesn't thread in by hand, do not force it. You will cross thread it and it will leak like a sieve. So just make sure you thread it in there by hand, like that. And then we're just going to kind of snug it up. You don't want to go, you know, it's not going to take 1,000,000 foot-pounds to get her tight, but it needs to be a little bit snug. There we go. That's probably good enough. I'm sure there's a torque spec for that, but I don't know it. So now we're going to go ahead and put this back on here. Put our bowl back on anyway. So when we do that, we need to think about how this carburetor was sitting on the engine. And we know that this gasket faced outward. This is the drain for your bowl. You want to be able to access that. So she's going to go like this. Okay, you want it to either face kind of like that or like that. I believe on this one it faced like that. All right, now take your bolt that holds the bottom of your bowl in and always look at it. Some engines, they have little holes through here that you need to ream out. So this one does not have them because it's a Chinese Zing Zang carb or whatever you want to call it. But all right, put that back on there. Tighten down your bowl. And I like to get them a little snug because otherwise they tend to vibrate loose and leak. All right, now we're ready to put this back on the bike, and I'm not going to show you guys that because it's just reverse order, but I do gotta make a gasket first, so I gotta go find my gasket material. All right, so I thought maybe you guys might want to know this too. So I went and I got my gasket material. You can buy this at hardware stores and stuff. It comes in a big roll like that. I had to go find it because I have not used it in a while. Now, what you want to do is place your carburetor on the opposite side of the gasket surface. You want to put it on something flat and decently hard. And then what you want to kind of do is just kind of tap it around like so. But don't let it move. Don't move it, because if you move it, you're going to lose your lines. Just kind of work it around the edge of the carburetor here. Just kind of work it around. And tap it around. And then you should start to see a transfer happening there. So that should tell you about what you need to cut out. All right, so let me get that cut out and we'll come back. All right, well, there she is. She's cut out and she's on there. You can see this top hole's open. I got my bolt holes in, the air bleeds are open. And let's see here. And you got to make sure that your choke can do choke things, and this can. It's not the prettiest in the world. I didn't have a razor blade to make all my cuts real nice and stuff, so had to make do with what I had. But I just want to take a minute here to talk to you guys about this. Now, most people would have had to order that gasket, and they'd have been sitting here waiting for it for, who knows, 3 days, 2 days, a week. I made that gasket in about 15 minutes. Using nothing but basic hand tools and some gasket material. That whole roll probably cost me, I don't know, $6 way back when. And that's gonna work just fine. I mean, it's not a super high horsepower race engine. Everything's gotta be port matched and all that crap. No, it's good enough for what it's for. You know, back in the day, man, those old time mechanics, those guys, I'm telling you, they were way better mechanics than I am today and than most of these guys are out here. because they made the things they needed. They didn't always go to the parts store and buy something new. You know, they needed an alternator went bad on a car. They tore it apart. They put diodes in it. They throw bearings in it. You know, whatever it needed. A rectifier, voltage regulators. You know, they used to fix that stuff. They'd arc in brake drums. I mean, this is not rocket science, guys. You guys can do this stuff. You can clean a carburetor and make a gasket. Save yourself a little bit of time and frustration. And in the end, you're going to be better for it because you're going to understand more about how your machine works. So get out there, tear some stuff apart, figure it out, make it work. That's how you learn. You learn by doing. And I mean, YouTube is a great resource. You can watch videos on stuff all day long. I do it all the time too when I don't know what I'm doing. But the first time I ever saw my Uncle Larry, he made a gasket. It was working on an old Schebler carburetor on a Ford 8N that belonged to my grandfather. We were doing the carburetor on it. I don't know, I was probably 14, 15 years old, and it just blew my mind that he could do that. The old timers, boy, they were craftsmen, and they didn't let something go if it wasn't right and it wasn't good enough. I'm trying to be that way. I'm still not where they were. Hopefully someday I can do them justice and honor them. But anyway, we got that all together. I'm going to slap this thing back together, and then we're going to see if I fixed it. All right, well, I just wanted to show you I did a little better on the second gasket here. This one only took me about 5 minutes to do. So, yeah. Anyway, my dad would get mad at everything he ever worked on. He'd throw tools, get mad, break stuff. So he really wasn't a very good teacher to me. But my Uncle Larry, man, he took me under his wing and he showed me a lot of things. And that man there, boy, he could fix anything. So, I mean, even if your parents aren't the most talented people in the world, you can get out there and find somebody that is and learn from them. You know, become an apprentice. Always become an apprentice of things in life. Never stop learning. Never stop trying to better yourself. When you do that, you limit your potential. All right, guys, well, I'm running a little behind. So I threw her back together, got her down, had to put some oil in her. It's about time for me to have to leave for work, so we're going to see what it does. And hopefully she fires up for us. There you have it, guys. We went through the carburetor fuel system on this old girl here. Got her running tip top for the guy. He uses it on his farm to transport stuff here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, she's a good running machine. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. And Jesus loves you. Loves you so much he died on a cross to forgive your sins so you can have eternal life. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and God bless you. Helps if you turn the ignition on, Greg.